it is my pleasure, my honor to introduce the foremost expert, combine, training, and all of that. Can't get no better. He is the guy, Mr. Mike Boyle, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for hopping on.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you having him, Mike, man. I can't say enough good things about you, okay? The things that you've been able to do over the years. Like I said, when he talks about the foremost expert in strength and training, just getting guys together and ready, I don't think people understand how much of a big deal you are. And I know you worked with USA Hockey before, soccer. You've done a number of things. I mean, it's just amazing, just your body of work and your legacy, what you've been able to do, my brother. And I just appreciate you for coming on our show tonight. You're going to give us some knowledge, man. We're going to spit a couple of questions to you, but I know you deliver. That's one thing you do, man. As a motivational speaker, when I watch you and talk to, the people that you train now, young kids, I'm like, guys need to understand this is how you do it. This is the right way of doing it. So thanks, Mike, man, for being here, brother. Appreciate it.
Like I said, thank you very much for having me. It was great to catch up with you. So that makes it worth it right there.
There you go. See, good person. Like I said, man, it just, coming out of Eastern Kentucky University. And so when I came up to you, Mike, we kind of discussed, now where the Chiefs got to the Super Bowl, was looking for a three-peat. And now we're talking about going to the draft. Okay. There's a number of holes, I would say, maybe a number, maybe I don't want to say number because it's going to seem a lot, but there's a few holes that we need to definitely address. Okay. Some issues that we need to talk about. But one of them is going into the draft. Can I just ask you, if you're taking a guy from college, what will be your process into getting a guy ready and knowledgeable about the biggest day of his life, primarily? What do you say?
It's exactly what you said. One of the things and I probably had this conversation with you 29 years ago, in terms of this is a job interview, and everything that you do during this job interview matters. So obviously the testing matters, right? I mean, that's what the combine is really all about. They're going to look at the measurables. They're going to look at the 40-yard dash. They're going to look at your 10 time. They're going to look at your 20-yard shuttle time. They're going to look at all those things. But they're also going to watch the way you conduct yourself the entire time that you're there. They're going to watch the way you work in the individual drills. And that's the stuff that we used to really emphasize to the guys, is that all this stuff matters and that you're under the microscope every second that you're there, and every opportunity that you have to kind of say, yes, coach, what else do you want me to do, coach? That kind of stuff. That stuff really matters. So that was, I think, a big emphasis for us, that we always were worried about the numbers, right? We know what the numbers needed to be by position. We knew what was great for each position. We knew what was good for each position, but we also wanted to worry about that sort of, it goes back to the old cliche of you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And when you go there, everybody that's anybody, I mean, there's owners there now. I mean, this thing has really changed in terms of head coaches are there, owners are there, coordinators there, everybody's there. And everybody's worried about making a mistake.
Yeah.
And the mistake, well, there's two mistakes, right? One mistake is you take a guy who's got great numbers who can't play football, which happens every year. Mm-hmm. But the bigger mistake, I think, is you take a guy with poor character. And I always say poor character plus multiple millions of dollars does not generally equal better character. So if you take a guy who maybe was a little bit of a problem child, and then you say, I think I'm going to give this guy $40 million and I'm going to hope that he becomes a better guy.
Yeah.
That's probably not happening.
Oh, no. Man, listen, I've going through the process. To me, it was so grueling, pressure of just trying, like you said, trying to do everything right, going in, and you're sitting there with all these teams, all the coaches, sometimes, like you said, the owners now, because of how big it is, and they're watching you. They're answering every question, they're throwing everything to you. And so you got to do not just, like you said, I want to be able to impress you, with my knowledge, my intellect, and my character, but also too out there on the field when I'm doing the test, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes what we see is you can build a guy up and they can look at something on film, but then all of a sudden a coach comes in. Well, is he actually that fast? We keep looking at measurables, and sometimes colleges, we know how it works in college. They'll say a guy is 6'6", 315 pounds, look like a prima donna. All of a sudden you get him, he's 6'2", 275 pounds with rocks in his pockets. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, this ain't the guy that was advertised, right? And so,
yeah. But I mean, and that's the beauty of the combine. I think some of the things about the combine I don't love because I think there's too much.
mm-hmm,
And I think you could get away. I always look at it like if it's me,
yeah,
I'm looking at vertical jump and I'm looking at 10-yard dash, and I'm not looking at a whole lot else because I can basically look at, and somebody did the numbers one time. It was actually Christian Okoye's year. They did the numbers, and basically there's a formula that you can do that basically takes your body weight in kilograms and your 10-yard dash time in meters per second.
mm-hmm,
And that gives you, now they call it truck stick, but we used to call it sprint momentum factor. But it
okay,
basically tells you how hard are you going to get hit by somebody, because the bigger that person is and the faster they move,
mm-hmm,
the harder they're going to hit you, right? So
that's
if
right,
I'm drafting, I'm just looking at that number and I'm saying, okay, if I want somebody at that position, I want that number to be the highest. That doesn't mean it's the heaviest guy. It doesn't mean it's the fastest guy. It means it's the combination of the fastest guy and the heaviest guy, because
right,
those two numbers together are what tells you kind of what the feeling of that collision is going to be. And all the other stuff, I mean, I guess I'd be worried about the injury stuff. Obviously, you want to make sure is this guy healthy, but I think sometimes there's too much emphasis put on too many different things. And it's really that basic thing. It's really rare to find a guy that can vertical jump and can run fast and that has the body weight that you want him to have at his position. If that guy can play football, which again that's the part, you got to watch film, right? You got to know, can he
right,
play football? But if he can, then that's your guy. But
yeah,
then, like you said, then you've got to factor in that character piece in terms of, okay, has this guy had problems off the field? Has he failed drug tests? Has he been arrested? It's complicated. It's a really significant process that these teams have to go through, because a first round mistake is multiple millions of dollars.
yeah. Oh my goodness, yes. And kind of what you said, there's a lot to go into it right now, and I'm right there with you as far as, does everything click, everything connect? And sometimes I think we can get hung up in some of the measurables way too much, right? I think sometimes when you look at guys and you look at prototypical, like was this guy, how's he measured out? Is he tall enough? Is his arms long enough? Does he have bigger hands? Right. And
Right.
so for me, it's the same thing. Like, I'm looking for explosion. I'm looking to see how fast you can generate power and whatnot in what you can do. So
And
let
that's
me,
what I think some of that stuff is overdone. I think they can
okay.
get too caught up in the minutia of
Mhm.
it, because again, you got to look at, like you said, you got to look at the guy in film and think, can he play? But I mean, I knew I had a really good predictability. When I met you, I was like, he's going to get drafted high. And I said this to Marcus: you did a standing backflip at 255 pounds at 6'6". I remember seeing it. I've only seen it. Only two men in my career have done that. You and Carl Crawford. Carl Crawford, probably the greatest athlete I've ever seen in my career. Full scholarship to UCLA, I believe, to play basketball, full scholarship to Nebraska to play football, and signed with the Tampa Bay Rays out of high school for multiple millions of dollars. Carl could also do a standing backflip at about 6'2", 235. But I was just like, shit, he's going to get drafted high. Like when I looked at you,
Uh-huh.
Marcellus Wiley, the same thing. I don't know if you remember. Marcellus might have been
Oh
the
yeah,
year
I know
after you.
Marcellus. Yeah.
Was he
Oh
after
yeah.
you or before you? I can't remember what year. He might have been 97.
You're after me. Hmm.
Brad Blank had brought him in and he was kind of like, I'm not sure. We got a really good class. He goes, but I got this kid from Columbia that I'm thinking about signing. So we had kind of our typical sort of intro day. And part of intro day was just going through some of the stuff we're going to do from a training standpoint. And at that time, we were doing plyometrics, which was pretty progressive. People weren't doing that kind of stuff. And we had boxes in the weight room. And I remember I showed Marcellus box jump. And now Marcellus, I knew I'd weighed him. He weighed 265. I showed him a 30-inch box jump. I jumped up on the 30-inch box. I said, okay, this, we're going to do this. We're going to do this many sets of 5, whatever. I said, just try one. And he floated up onto the box. And I kind of I was like, oh, yeah. I said, can you wait here for a second? He's like, yeah, yeah. So he's sitting on the box, hanging out. I go walking into the office. I want to run, but I walk.
Yeah, yeah.
I look at Brad and I say, Brad, did you bring a contract with you? And he's like, no. He goes, everything's down the street, down in my office. I was like, get your ass out of my chair. Get in that freaking Jaguar of yours. Drive to your house. Come back. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, positive. I said, he just floated onto a 30-inch box at 265 pounds. I was like, he's an athlete. I have no idea. I haven't seen video. I have no idea what he can do. We could play. I said, but if you got him up here, if you're thinking he's a guy you want to sign, I'm telling you right now, sign him. And I was right. I mean, he went high and he made a ton of money.
Oh yeah, yeah. I used to go against him, man, when he was in San Diego. Who was what Marcellus was at? Of the Bills. So
Bills in San Diego. He was the biggest free agent contract of that year, jumping from the Bills to San Diego.
That's
We
right.
still stay in touch. I talk to him every now and then. He came back one year. He pulled the Rocky to train for his last year. He literally commuted back to Boston. He was like, I want to go back to the old gym. I want to train in Boston. And he flew cross country every day or every week. Like he went home to LA on Friday, and then he got on the red eye on Sunday night, and he came back and he trained.
Yeah. That dude, man. That dude. That's Marcellus.
But it was, but my point being, I don't think it's that hard to really pick out the athletes. And that's just me. Maybe I think I know too much, but a lot of times the same thing. Tristan Wirfs, one of my good friends, Chris Doyle, coached him at Iowa, was his strength coach. And I remember Chris sent me a video of him hang cleaning 4 or 5 for 5. And I was like, man, like that's like,
jeez.
That's like you can talk about what people say they can do in the weight room, but this was a video. Like I was like, nope, I know exactly how much weight that is. And he is manhandling 400 pounds. I'd never seen any human being in American football. I've only seen people like in Olympic weightlifting, yeah, but not in American football. And obviously, he's been a pretty good player.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has. Absolutely, animal out there. I love his game. Just watching him, but you can see, and that translates over on the field. That's the thing about it. So those things, like you could be a gym rat or workout warrior and whatnot, and sometimes those things don't translate on the field as much, right? And I've seen that. I coached, high school and college, and sometimes it was like, man, like you can do all this weight, you can do all this, but when it comes out on the field, you like a whole different animal, totally different person and stuff.
But hang clean and vertical jump translate on the field.
Oh yeah, all day.
Bench press don't always necessarily translate on the field. You can see some guys who are real good with slow, heavy strength stuff in the weight room, and those guys. There's always, everybody has that guy on their team, right? That was the best guy in the weight room at those lifts, but was not very good at football. But I never saw very many kids that could hang clean well and could vertical jump well that weren't good at football.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, kind of talking about one of our guys, Mike Mamula, Mumu. I played with him up in Philadelphia, and he was the first one that kind of came in and was like that workout guy for the combine. He had moved up. I don't know what Mike was projected first, but he ended up being the first round pick, man. What was Mike?
I think he was like projected like 4th, 5th round, I think, initially. But he was, I got a lot of credit for that. But the reality was, he was one of the first guys that kind of came out as a junior eligible. It was unusual then that a guy would forego their last year of eligibility and go into the draft. Yeah. So nobody had numbers on him, or not a lot, usually, because sometimes they'd have like junior day, they'd come in and they'd get a 40 on you. But he was the same way. When I saw him, I was like, ooh, he's really fast and he's really explosive. And then we just did what we had always done in terms of, we were really good at teaching to the test. That was what we did better at that time than everybody else was doing, because we kind of knew, hey, we can milk a 10th on your 40. I just started working on your start. All we're going to do is work on your start. And I used to say to people, you didn't get any faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we made you better at the start. And suddenly that 4.6 guy was a 4.5 guy. And we were able to do that stuff. And even, vertical jump, the teaching guys physics and angles. We used to tell guys all the time, because guys with the old Vertec, guys wanted to see the Vertec. And I would always tell guys like, hey, this is geometry, right? You're jumping the long arm of this right triangle. Doesn't work. Get underneath the Vertec and cut the distance down. Jumping up at it because you want to be able to see it and try to hit it doesn't work. So we had a million tricks at that time. And now everybody, I think we invented the tricks, but eventually everybody adopted the tricks. Everybody started to realize, because again, that Mamula, that he ended up on the cover of Sports Illustrated that year.
Yeah.
Peter King wrote the article, and one of the things that I said to Peter King was that, hey, this is literally like someone giving you the SAT questions, and all you have to do is go back and memorize the answers. I mean, we go to the combine, we know the questions.
Yeah.
Why would we not? And you were up there, you came. We practiced the drills.
Absolutely.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day we practiced 20 shuttle, or every other. Like some days we were straight ahead, and some days we were side to side. But we practiced vertical jump, we practiced broad jump, we practiced 10-yard start. We practiced all the things. We practiced the L drill, and we were, it was like I said, it was like going to the Arthur Murray School of Dance. I mean, we were, it was all footwork. Like it's, we do the 20-yard shuttle, and I tell everybody it's 12 steps. If you do more than 12 steps, you did it wrong.
Did it wrong. Yeah.
And the guys that, because I always say to guys, and you can't do it wrong in 13, because it always takes 2 more steps. So if you don't get 12, it takes 14. And I'd always have the guys, I'd tell them to run a place as fast as they can. I'd say, run a place as fast as you can. I said, and I'm going to time you for 12 steps. I said, now I want you to do 14 faster than that. And the guy would look and go like, I can't do that. I'm like, exactly. You can't do 14 steps faster than you can do 12. So if we're going to win this drill, quote unquote, we're going to win it because we did 12 steps. We didn't do 2 extra steps. And, again, we just drilled it. We drilled it's football practice, right? What do? You drill.
That's right. That's right. Well, and this is really, it's the difference between, millions of dollars of being drafted, high draft pick or low draft pick, because of some of the things, like you said, some of the tests that guys have to perform out there. One of the guys, and we kind of talk about, and I said this, I didn't know that you had trained Swanee, Eric Swan. Eric Swan was probably one of the most premier defensive ends, D tackle. I think he was right around that 8, kind of thing. Kind of remind me a lot of Chris Jones that we have here with Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, when I'm talking about big, fast, strong, athletic, Swanee was probably one of the hardest guys I ever had to block. People ask me time, like, man, who do you have a hard time blocking? Him, Swanee. He was one of the guys. When I came, you had to bring your hard hat and lunch pail the entire time. But freak athlete, man. Like I said, probably one of the premier defensive tackles of the day. A lot of people just probably didn't know about, And I know you said he might have had like a little bit of, some injuries here and there in his career, but amazing guy, man. Amazing.
Oh yeah, he was unreal. I told you the story off camera one before we started, but his agent at that time called me and said, I got this kid who didn't go to college, and I got him playing in a semi-pro league up here, and he's 6'4" and he's 300 pounds, and he can run a 4.8. And I was like, no, bullshit. I just, I was like, no, there's no way. And so we met for breakfast at an IHOP on outside of Boston, and they used to have the scales at IHOP, and I just was like, hey, Eric, man, jump on the scale. I want to see how much you weigh. And I was thinking he weighed maybe he was 275, and he hops on, he's 295, and I was like, okay, he's 295. I said, and I'd seen tape of him running, and I thought he definitely can run. Now, I don't know, again, can he run a 4.8? I don't know. But then we started going out and playing around, because we did a lot of stuff then. And again, we were very progressive. We were projecting 10-yard splits into 40s. Like, if you remember when you were there, we never ran 40. No. We never ran over 20 ever before the combine. I had guys, and guys they would get nervous. And I'm like, I'm telling you, if I can show you your 20 time and I can tell you your 40 time. And every time we were right
Mm-hmm.
because we knew what the acceleration pattern was going to look like. And we just were, I was always super risk averse because the last thing you needed was a guy pulling a hamstring a month before the NFL Combine. So we just weren't messing with 40s, but we did lots of 10-yard starts. And I started timing him in the 10s and going back. And I had numbers. I was looking at numbers and thinking, well, shit, he projects out. He projects out as definitely a sub-5 guy.
Yeah.
And I think he went to the Combine. And I think he ran like, again, it was a little variable, but I think he did run some 4.8s, like 4.89s, 4.88s. But that was at that time. Now he was, we had been feeding him, and he was over 300. I don't remember what he was at the draft, but he was clearly over 300, and he went 8th overall that year.
4.8.
We had a pretty good run. We had 8 into probably 95, and then I think we had 8 in 97 when Mamula went. So we had a bunch of firsts and seconds in those years.
Man, look, you miles ahead of everybody, and pretty much in this field. You really, really were. And it kind of take this. I'm kind of shift gears a little bit. For the simple fact of, we were talking about kind of injuries a little bit, right? And we have a guy named Rashid Rice, okay, who ended up getting hurt for us during the year. We actually had 3 guys that came. Well, 2 guys came off of ACL injuries that we got in free agency. One was DJ Humphreys, who we don't quite know if he came back too early or not. And then we had one that didn't get to play in the Super Bowl against San Francisco 49ers and Charles Omenihu. So he came back this year. A little bit, it's kind of one of those things, you know how it is, like with injuries, you don't know with ACL, how are you responding to everything, the treatment, the strength training, how does your explosion look? And so Rashid Rice actually had LCL injury and what was a hamstring as well, Marcus?
Yeah, he had a torn LCL, so he had to get like he had to get like repaired LCL and also a hamstring tendon injury within that LCL injury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for us, because the question is, with this young guy like this, will he be able to bounce back with the type of speed and whatnot that he had before this injury? Right. I think it's one of those things like when you think about things like this, does a strength training and stuff, how does that work?
100% yes if they do it. I'll get on my soapbox a little bit here though.
Okay.
I know why the average NFL career length is 3 years. Because these guys do not do nearly enough work in the offseason. It is amazing how, and the Players Association has not helped the players by decreasing the time, by decreasing the OTAs, by decreasing the time they can spend with the strength coach.
Yeah.
They've upped the injury numbers. The players have more autonomy, but the players don't exercise the autonomy.
Right.
They don't. So I got Pat Frymuth trains with us now, who's a pretty good tight end too. And but he's back in the gym already working out. That's unusual. I find these NFL guys now are not as diligent as they need to be about training. And they're not doing the things that they need to do. They're not with good coaches. They're not in good programs. They're not doing the stuff that they need to do. You see way too much gimmicky stuff out there with guys. And you just, in general, you just don't see enough guys doing enough training. I would look at it and say, because my son 2 years ago tore his ACL and came back, and I knew the numbers. His vertical jump was higher. His 10-yard dash time was faster when he came back to play the next year because he had those numbers from before. So I know you can do it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, are guys willing to put in the time? And what I have seen is you've got too many young millionaires who think they're going to be young millionaires forever.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, the standard joke, right? What does NFL stand for?
Not for long.
Long, right? But the reason it's not for long is because guys stop working.
Yeah.
And if you talk to any NFL strength coach, they will tell you that. Guys, they start looking around and thinking, I don't really have to do that much to stay here. And then in the blink of an eye, they're out of there. And it's too late. Like if I was one of the same, it's like the combine idea, right? If I was one of these guys, if I hadn't got my second contract yet, I'd be taking 1 week off and then I'd be saying, who's the best strength coach in my area. And I would be finding that guy, and I would be training like, someone's coming to steal my lunch money tomorrow.
That's right.
And I got to make sure. But guys don't do it. That's why I saw in the chat someone asked about, about Patrick Mahomes and Bobby Stroop.
Yeah. What do you think?
Bobby's training or not like Bobby? I like Bobby's training. Bobby's a really smart guy. I know Bobby. But whether you like it or not like it, the guy's committed to it. He does it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can look at that and say, maybe I agree with this, maybe I don't agree with that, whatever that is. But the point is, he's got his guy that he's had since high school, who's a top level coach, really smart guy, and he's back at it. And that to me is the differentiating factor with a lot of these guys. Is I had a guy, and this was a baseball guy, but I had a baseball guy one time. I asked him where he was training when I started working for the Red Sox, and he was in Houston area. And he said, well, actually, I train at the place where my wife trains because it's near my house. Legitimate answer. I said, you are pitching in Major League Baseball, and you are training at the gym that your wife trains at because it's near your house. And he kind of got a little sheepish. He's like, yeah, that doesn't sound real good. And I'm like, no, that does not sound real good. I connected this guy with a local Houston guy that I knew who specialized in baseball. The next year, the guy was in the Major League Baseball All-Star game. Not a lie. But, I mean, the training really matters. It's not enough to say I go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, every schmuck in America goes to the gym, right?
Right.
They're not all playing in the NFL.
Right.
And when you look at it, and that's why, again, I won't say I'm a LeBron fan, but I love the way LeBron invests in himself. I love the way he spends the money to take care of his body. Curry spends the money, in basketball. There's these guys. You've got to be willing to it's like anything. You have to reinvest to continue to make money, right? You don't just keep getting money given to you. You got to look at some of that money and say, okay, I've got to reinvest this money. And reinvesting that money, you are right. When you played, you were the asset.
Right. Yeah.
You have one singular responsibility for the asset. Take care of that asset and continue to cause that asset to produce income.
Yeah.
Guys just don't do it. They don't approach it that way. And the PA doesn't help them, and the agents don't help them. Like, again, if I was an agent, I would be demanding my guy, hey, where are you going? First thing, when I went to work for the Red Sox, first thing I said is, I called every guy, where do you train?
Yeah.
I want to know where you're training, who you're training with. And because I want to know geographically where you are. And if guys, I tried to find, okay, who's the best guy in the area that I can connect them with so that I know, at least if I don't have this guy under my control, then I know he's someplace good with somebody who's going to take good care of him.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that was long soliloquy there.
No, listen, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Because you saying this, I have a lot of things in my mind. Just really, I want to talk about and kind of address a little bit. Obviously with some of the guys on the team. But I always say this little running joke. People laugh at me when I'm sitting there like, man, you got a guy. He's sitting on the couch eating Cheetos. He got Cheetos on his chest. He ain't been doing anything. He ain't been doing work. And one of the things I did was I worked into my contract to have an off-season workout with the team. And so I would always get a workout bonus because I just stayed with the team. It was just much easier to just do it that way, as opposed like you're saying, like, hey, I'm going to go down here to Texas. Well, how long are you going to Texas for? Well, I'm going down here to California to go work out. Well, I'm going to Florida. And so what you see is some guys go and they feel like they've done enough work. I've been there 1 week or 2 weeks. I've done enough. I've arrived. Now I'm going to sit back and I'm going to get on jet skis and do all the other things I shouldn't be doing with my money. And I could not understand, especially now, the type of money guys are making.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm a huge, oh my gosh, I just drew a blank. In the NBA, bigger guy, played at Duke. So Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
Zion, I'm sitting there saying, how is you're not paying somebody to smack a cheeseburger out of your hand?
Bro, seriously, but I look at that and think, why is that guy not at our door saying, please help me?
Right. Right.
But we can't get local guys to train anymore. Like, it's crazy. Some of the best athletes I have are women, who are playing professionally, playing professional hockey, playing professional lacrosse, whatever it is, and they show up every day because they want to be great. And then you got some of these NFL guys who, like you said, I had guys, I want to go to Miami, I want to go to LA, I want to go, and it's like, hey, you can vacation when you're done with all the money you made.
Right. Come on.
But you're going to play. But again, I blame this a lot of times on the system, because nobody looks at these guys and said, do you know what your income curve looks like? Your income curve looks like this.
That's right.
In terms of, you're going to have this period of amazing earning, and then next thing you know, it's going to be zero. You want to drag that line as long as you can, as kind of on that just 45, where you just keep making a little bit more money. And they took away that workout bonus. You can't do that anymore. They don't allow. That's not, in the Players Association, you can't. They limit the time. They limit the time that you can be at the facility. So you almost now have to find a guy. But you got to do, like I said, I have a lot of respect. I don't know Patrick Mahomes from Adam, but I do know Bobby that he works with. But I mean, that's his hometown.
Yeah.
Like, that's where he's from. Like, he goes back to where he's from in Texas, and he trains with the guy he's been training with for a long time, and they train hard and they train serious. And it's unconventional. I will say that it is unconventional, but the way the kid plays the game is unconventional, right? And he does shit like that nobody's ever done in a football game before. So I kind of look at it and think, hey, maybe more people should be paying more attention to Bobby and not.
That's right.
Right. Like, looking, and again, is it the perfect intersection? Maybe, yeah. Genetics, obviously, the dad was a Major League Baseball player, that, all that stuff plays into it. But there is one of my favorite books is a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And one of the things that he talks about in the book, he calls about the slight edge principle. The slight edge principle number 1 is show up.
That's right, man.
Slight edge principle number 2 is show up consistently, right? Don't just show up once. Don't just show up twice. You got to show up. Like, if I say it's 8 weeks of workouts, well, that means I want to see you 32 times, not 22, not 12, whatever it is. If 8 weeks of workouts, 4 days a week, 32 times, I want to see you. And then he says that principle 3 is show up with a great attitude. So it's literally like, show up, keep showing up, show up with a great attitude. If you do that, I mean, again, if you have the ability to be in the NFL, and then you just show up, like, just go to somebody and say, hey, I'm here. Tell me what to do. Find your local Mike Boyle and come in and say, I'm here. Tell me what I need to do. And the harder part now is there's a million clowns too.
Oh,
like
yes.
There's a lot of frauds. There's a lot of people that aren't good at it. So you got to do your homework. But your strength coach knows, right? People know you can. It's not that hard to ask around and say, okay, if find me the best guy wherever, wherever we are. Okay, I'm in Fairfax, Virginia. Who do I, if you told me to find that guy by tomorrow, I'd be able to tell you where to go. Say, Mark, here's where you go. Just go. You just throw yourself at the mercy of the court. Like, okay, I'm here. What do I got to do? And then do it. It's not complicated.
I actually might need that. My girlfriend's trying to get back into doing like marathoning and whatnot. Back in September, she was doing the limbo. Gets a bony Liz Frank fracture. In the process, dislocates her knee at the same time. So she's still like on the path to recovery. They say by the end of March she should be back to baseline, is what they're saying. But she signed up for the Marine Corps Marathon in October. She doesn't know right now if she'll be able to get the proper training in for the marathon back in October. So
I'd tell her with the Liz Frank fracture, sign up for a bike race.
A bike race?
Those two things, foot fractures and marathons, don't go together.
Oh man, no, not at all. Man, so man, it kind of goes into. I was talking about those guys before. Rashid Rice, if he's putting in the work and the effort and the time, he can do it. He can get back, like you said, no problem, and still have no. Okay.
I mean, unless there's really some mitigating circumstance, something in that knee that really didn't get well repaired. But yes, they should, again, if they if they are willing to invest the time and the money and the energy. Because I mean, again, I've spent my whole career with people said we're all done. Oh, this guy will never play again. And almost every one of them played again. So if someone's willing to show up and do the work, there are what was his name? Remember Robert Edwards? That beach volleyball. But I mean, that was like one of those. I remember looking at that thinking he may never play again. With that kind of knee injury, where he tore his ACL, his PCL, his MCL, like he tore every ligament you had in your knee. He tore it. I'm like, you probably don't come back from that. But the average, I mean, ACL now is getting to be like Tommy John in baseball in terms of the rehab is so good, and so many people have done it so many times that that they can do that over and over again now.
Yeah. He has a very compelling story, man. We coached together when I was attending the Rookie Bowl a couple of years ago. Robert was with me on the staff, man, and he got up and he spoke to the kids, and you could hear a pin drop talking about that story. He's like, look, and he was, when I'm talking about a hell of a player, he was a hell of a player.
Oh, yeah.
And I played in that Rookie Bowl too the year before that, before Robert went out there, where he got hurt. So in 1 or 2 years, but is one of those things, like you said, like you just can't get prepared for things like that, right? Now the technology, like you said, now the rehab and all those things are a little bit different from back then. Now it's so much better. Guys are able to get back faster than what they are. And you were absolutely right, Mike. There's no reason why guys shouldn't take advantage of the opportunity he has. And what I've seen this year, and I'm gonna be a little critical here, okay? Because you can tell when guys are putting in work. You can tell when they come into camp. You can tell how they're playing on the football field, how much work you are actually putting in to get better. And so there are some guys, we're going to be talking about this a little bit later, about some of our tackles that we had, young guys, that I felt like wasn't necessarily strong enough. Their base, their explosion, their hand placement, as far as the push, like all those things, like the strike and the power, like you can see it. You can visibly see things like moving a body, having to move a body somewhere, a man, to move him a different place against his will. There's a skill set into that, okay? And a lot of it takes a lot of hard work just to be able to do that. I think some of our young guys didn't quite understand it. Hopefully they get that now. But I agree with you. I think there needs to be a lot more done. At least maybe NFLPA could talk to them, but we're talking about grown men to make their own decisions. They have complete autonomy over their own selves. What do you do, right? I mean, these guys got to get it. They have to.
Exactly. But there has to be an influence in their life that says to them, you're squandering, like that's my thing. You're squandering an opportunity. You can't, like my thing is, it's Captain Obvious, right? It's 3 years in the league. That's the average.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reason it's 3 is because some guys play 10, which means there's some guys that play 1. Right?
That's right.
3 is the average.
Right.
So average means some are more and some are less. But
yeah,
you would like ideally, like I said, if you probably can get to the second contract, you more than likely are set for life.
Right.
If you can sign that second deal. And I mean, how you cannot be just a dog working like a crazy person thinking, at least I got to get to the second deal.
Yeah.
Maybe you can think, I get to the second deal, I can take my foot off the gas a little bit here. But 3.5 years, most guys don't get past that rookie deal. And the reality is you're going to have a lot of fun for a couple of years. You're going to have a shitload of money. And you're going to be able to go to Vegas and go to Miami and spend a lot of money. And then boom, you're going to smack into a brick wall at the end of 3 years and start trying to figure out there aren't a whole lot of jobs for 24-year-old men that pay $1 million a year.
No, it's not.
No, you either got to be able to sing or because that's about it right there.
Yeah. And if that ain't incentive enough to get your butt up off the couch and do something to get prepared, I don't know what else can do it. I really can't. I really just don't know. Man, I tell you what, fun thing, okay, and I think you talked to Marcus about this. I didn't know that, but Marcus has a question. Mark, you were saying that you actually went to college with Spags and Toub, those guys.
Yep,
That's right.
Spags and I were
Right.
really good friends. Dave Toub was only there 1 year. We were good friends the 1 year that he was there, but he
Okay.
transferred to UTEP after 1 year. But Spags and I were really good friends the whole time we were there.
All right.
He was actually, and he was I mean, I always say, like, a lot of my friends from college, people like that that have since been successful. I don't know if I foresaw.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a wide receiver, right? So he wasn't
Yeah.
even a defensive player. And did I think that he would become an elite defensive coordinator, maybe the best defensive coordinator in the game?
Yeah.
But I had a lot of friends like that in college. I had guys that went on to become Division I head coaches that I never thought. My first year in basketball at BU,
Mm-hmm.
basketball now,
Okay.
our point guard was Brett Brown, who went on to coach the 76ers.
Yeah.
Our off guard was Sean Teague, whose two sons still play, I think, in the NBA.
Yeah. Teague brothers. Yeah. Played it here.
Teague, yeah.
And Rick Pitino was the head coach.
That's right. That's right.
And he was gone before I used to play pickup basketball with him, but I never actually worked with him because he left. But then John Kuster, who ended up coaching, I think coached the Pistons, coached a couple of NBA teams. He was our assistant coach who became the head coach at that time. So, Spags, all these guys, like I always say, one of the things I tell people now is that you never know who you're with at any point in time and where they may end up. Like, it's really funny. I sit and I watch Super Bowl and my friends are like, you know that guy? And I'm like, yeah, I know him really well. I drank a lot of beers with that kid in college. You know what I mean? Like, we had a lot of fun. And here I am watching him coaching in the Super Bowl, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. I mean, even we've had guys, BU guys that have coached in the Super Bowl, and you see a lot in 44 years.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The thing Spags, great guy. We always talk to Spags. And of course, when I played at Philly, Kansas City, going against his guys and stuff, man, me and Spags know each other. He's up in New York or whatnot, me hitting heads with Strahan and those dudes. So every time I see Spags, man, I always give him a big old hug. It's like, yo, Spags, man, how you doing? Last time I seen him, I was out at the Chiefs game, and he was talking to me and a minute who we were talking. He said, man, both y'all guys need to be out here on the field playing. I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
young guys there.
That I said hello, but
yeah.
Pat Spagnuolo still scouts down there. Do you guys know Pat? He's Pat Spagnuolo. He's a scout for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, he and I used to work together a million years ago in Boston. He's a Boston guy.
Okay.
And Mike Bergonzi's a Boston kid. Used to train with us. He actually worked out with us at the facility.
Wow.
When he was Everett kid. So there's a lot of lots of small crossovers as you go along.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any funny Spag stories from way back in the day that you can tell on the air?
No, he would not want me to tell any stories on the air, and I will keep his confidence. That I would just say he was a great guy. I loved him in college. I had a really he was just a good person. He really was. I think we all had our crazy moments, but he was a good solid guy.
Oh yeah.
That's
No
awesome.
question about it. All right, man. Look, Mike. I tell you what, man. This right here, this moment has been an absolute joy for me. I really, like you said, 44 years that we talked when we hit each other up. I'm like, I can't believe it's been 30 years, almost 30 years from the time I got in the league to where it is now. And it's just one of those things. It's always those feel good moments when you're able to catch up with people that you haven't seen in quite some time, but also too, just to thank you, and I just want to thank you for the time, man, that you gave to me, to just put into me to get me to where I needed to get me to. I always say this, man, success is never something that is conjured just in a vacuum. It takes a lot of different people to be a part of that, and you was part of that, part of my journey that taught me a lot about just kind of getting into the NFL, what to kind of almost expect, getting some more of that information, man. But I just want to tell you, man, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, man. And I love you for that. I do.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure. You had a really nice run, so it's nice, and it's just great to see you're still in it.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. Look, we had to bring you back for a different time as well.
Anytime. You got my info. Next time you want me to come on, just hit me up, and we will do this again.
Absolutely. Listen, my father-in-law is a huge Mike Boyle fan. Okay. So I don't know if he came on here tonight and stuff, man, but I told him about it. So I know he's gonna be like, oh my gosh, Mike Boyle. Like he's so he runs a gym of fitness out there in Blue Springs, Missouri. And so, like I said, I told him about it, man. I know he's gonna be tickled to death about it. So but Mike, man, like I said, man, appreciate it for coming up, man, and catching up with you, man. Seriously,
Right,
and everybody in
thank
here.
you guys very much. And I'll talk to you, Mark. It's nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you, Mike. Thanks a lot for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right.
That was awesome.
Oh man, dude.
I mean, talking to him, because obviously I read his bio and all that stuff before he came on. But just talking to him, sometimes it's always cool when you see someone's bio and they say the Godfather, the combine and the training for it, and then when you talk to him, this guy's got a World Series ring. When you talk to him, he's like a normal guy, just like one of us. And it's cool. It's cool.
I almost it felt to me like I reverted back to that college kid all over again with Mike. Really,
cool.
It's just cool. Kind of how it was. Mike, man, you can just tell he's just an amazing man in himself. Gracious with his time and who he is. Man, solid guy all the way around. So we want to get Mike back on here again. Just kind of discussing on it. Man, it was just some great information, just talking about how the whole process goes through the combine. Then we had a question about Rashid Rice. How's his injury going to be? Because in the back of my mind, I'm worried about that. I'm worried, look, I've had knee injuries, and my my left knee, I've had a meniscus tear, PCL tear, MCL tear, bone on bone. Part of it was I didn't have the same amount range of motion. Okay, a little hindered. And when I came out, I tell you, man, I was running a 4.5, Like Mike told you, I can't wait to show this to my boys. I did a backflip right there in front of him. But yeah, he was just,
I was going to ask, did you do gymnastics, or was that just a natural thing you could do a backflip? I mean, what is the deal with that?
Yeah, it was just a natural thing. I learned how to do a standing, backflip. Now I'm talking about, this ain't hands on the ground. I'm talking about in the air backflip,
That's insane. When he told me that before you got on, when I was talking to him before we started, he told me that story. I was like, "Whoa, really?" I was like, "Wow." I mean, geez.
Look, I was a freak athlete, Marcus. Hey, freak athlete.
We've all seen the photos of you, JD. We've seen the Zeus photos of you. We know, looking like a Greek god out there back in the day. Still do.
Sir. That's good stuff, man. I wrote that book down. I got to look at Slight Edge. I got to check that out.
Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Yeah, I wrote that down.
Yeah, okay. Good stuff, man.
Susan, the country backflip.
Yeah, country backflip. That's right.
That's awesome. Yeah, we definitely have to have him. And I love the kind of the 6 degrees of the Chiefs, right? He went to school with Spags and Dave Toub. Obviously, he couldn't tell stories. They were college kids, so obviously he wasn't gonna be able to tell some of the stories from their times back in the day. But really cool that he was. And I didn't know Spags was a receiver. That's fantastic.
I neither. Like you said, who would have known that? Who was a receiver in college, and all of a sudden he becomes the
best
greatest
DC of all time.
Right. That's amazing just to see people's journeys, really. And so that is awesome. That's an awesome story, brother. That's an awesome story.
That's really cool.
G-Pick said, JD, bust out a backflip. We know you can do it now. I know you got enough room in the dungeon. I tell you what, I try to do a backflip in here, knock and destroy everything over, and I'm going to have to yell for my sweetie come get me. Sweetie!
We don't want that.
Well, yeah. We don't see that. Yeah. I try to stay upright now, G-Pick. I try to stay upright, brother. That's what I try to do. So.
Yeah, Susan says you better not.
No, yeah, no. Babe, don't worry about it.
That's cool, though. That's cool. Yeah, and the next time you see Spags, you got to mention the Mike Boyle connection.
Oh my God!
Actually, that would be kind of a cool episode, a reunion episode, because he was telling me they haven't talked in quite some time. So a reunion episode, Mike Boyle and Steve Spagnuolo, the old college friends. That'd be pretty cool to have them both on the show.
Oh yeah.
Hi everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.